Hi, Commissioner. National days are a good time to celebrate ties between different countries and also a very good time to take stock of things. Congratulations on your National Day and the celebrations that you plan. Tell us what's been happening between Singapore and Malaysia recently.
I mean, Malaysia and Singapore has always been a good neighbor. We are close and close neighbor. We are close trading partner. There are a lot of Malaysian working in Singapore. Malaysia and Singapore, we have a very strong and robust trade relations. We are each other's second largest trading partners for many years. Following the opening of the border after the pandemic in April 2022, we have seen an uptick of trade relation and activities. And for 2022, actually we have recorded a very high trade figure compared to the pre-pandemic years. So, these strong relations will continue for many more years. And this year 2023, in the beginning of this year, Prime Minister Anwar visited Singapore for his introductory visit, and that has further cement strong relationship between Malaysia and Singapore. And during that visit, he also witnessed the signing of two important agreements, one on green economy, the other one is on digital economy. I think these two these two sectors, green and digital, will further bring or elevate our relationship, as well as to increase our trading between our two countries. So I see a very bright future for both of us, not only in term of trade relationship, but also on other aspect as well. Because Prime Minister Anwar, when he was here, he also emphasized on the close and strong historical tie that we both have, and also people-to-people exchanges that we have over the years, which he would like to further strengthen in the years to come.
Hi, Commissioner. There are lots of Malaysians who also stay here, and there is a lot of stuff that happens. There are Malaysians who visit on daily basis too. Now, to keep everything going smoothly, there are many departments that work. Besides the High Commissioner, which are the other arms of the mission which are in Singapore?
Yeah. I mean, High Commission of Malaysia in Singapore is one of the biggest mission that we have abroad. So here in High Commission of Malaysia in Singapore, we have other agencies. As you rightly pointed out, we have a Defence Office, we have MITI Office, we have MIDA Office, we have Immigration Office, we have Labour Office, we have Custom. They are all under the High Commission of Malaysia. So I have officers from these various agencies working here under me in Singapore. Firstly, to take care of our own people, as you said, working here in Singapore, but also to ensure that any consular issues can be resolved quickly. And other than that, is also to foster trade relations, people-to-people exchanges, and so on and so forth. So any investors that would like to go to Malaysia to invest, they can come to us to talk to us on what they want to do. Then they can also talk to our trade people, our MIDA, and so on and so forth. So I think this has been beneficial for many years. We have facilitated a lot of inquiries into Malaysia. Then I presume this will continue to be one of our core activities here in Singapore.
While many Singaporeans always run to Malaysia, so many people want to go. And at the same time, Malaysians come to Singapore, and it's an ongoing kind of activity. So, my question to you is, how do you make sure that it's seamless? Sometimes people complain of traffic jams and stuff like that. Is there any headway into solving that problem?
I think this congestion at land checkpoints has been a problem for many years, and this has been exacerbated after the opening of border in April 2022. As you rightly pointed out, there are a lot of Malaysians working in Singapore, but continue to live in Johor, and then they commute daily to Singapore in the morning. So during the rush hour, rush hour is defined between 6 to 8 a.m. every day, weekdays. So we are seeing, you know, more than 200,000 people, mostly on motorcycles, crossing into Singapore. This has become a problem because they have to take a lot of time to clear both immigration in Malaysia and also in Singapore. So we have, you know, been communicating to each other. There are mechanism in place for, you know, for example, Immigration Malaysia and ICA in Singapore to talk, to find ways to come up with some of to overcome some of these operational challenges. So there are a few, you know, measures that has been taken or implemented to ease the congestion, you know, during this rush hour. So among others is to increase the lane for motorcycle and so on and so forth. On the other hand, you know, whenever Singapore have long holidays, for example, there will be a lot of cars going to into Malaysia. So this also, you know, has resulted in congestion. And sometime people have to wait 3, 4, maybe 5 hours to
Wow.
clear
Yeah.
both checkpoint, no, either in Tuas or Woodland or into Malaysia and so on and so forth. I mean, both sides are also has been, you know, working tirelessly on to overcome this issue. As you probably aware, MB of Johor has been visiting the checkpoint, you know, the in Woodlands and Tuas regularly to make sure that you know, all these steps can be taken so that seamless journey by people that commute daily to Singapore or Singaporean going to into Malaysia going to be. I presume this will take a bit more time for both sides to really, you know, find solutions to ease this congestion, because this will, I think, will continue to be experienced by people, especially during the rush hour. But as I mentioned earlier, both sides are looking into finding, you know, solutions to this issue. I think over the months, you know, since opening of border in April 2022, we have seen some, you know, drop in terms of waiting time to clear. So I hope, you know, both sides continue to work on this issue so that eventually, as you mentioned, we're going to have seamless travel between both sides.
You know, for countries to work together also, there are many visits that take place, government to government, government to business, business to consumers. Could you share with our readers some of these that have taken place? First the visits, then maybe whether you had some road shows, conferences. Please highlight.
I mean, once the border opened in April 2022, if you recall, you know, late last year in October, our king, you know, undertook his first state visit to Singapore in October. So and following that, in January this year, we have, as I mentioned earlier, introductory visit by the Prime Minister to Singapore. And in between, you know, even until now, we have a lot of ministers, cabinet ministers coming here, you know, to meet their counterparts, to explore new cooperations, area of cooperation, and so on and so forth. And President Halimah has undertaken his state visit to Malaysia in March this year. So you know, one of the highest mechanism between both sides when it comes to government work is the annual leader retreats. So now it's a turn for Singapore to host. So based on the planning that we have, Singapore probably going to host this sometime in October this year. So at that time, Prime Minister Anwar, accompanied by a number of cabinet ministers, will come to Singapore and to have the discussion on you know, how to bring forward relations that we have between us. And as I said, you know, once border is open, there is always a active exchange of visit by both sides. A few of Singapore ministers also have visited their counterpart in Malaysia. So these exchanges of, you know, visit at the highest level will continue to be one of the hallmark of our relations, taking into account our close relationship and people to people, you know, relationship.
High Commissioner, you mentioned that in trade you have seen a lot of growth. How about investment? What trends do you see?
I mean, investment from Singapore has also been, you know, seeing a good number since the reopening of the border. Last year, Singapore is our number 2 biggest investor in Malaysia. I mean, most Singapore investment from Singapore for last year is concentrated in Johor, and some of this includes investment in data center and so on and so forth. So I foresee investment from Singapore continue to be one of the important source for Malaysia to tap, and our investment agencies, MIDA, and as well as the Ministry, MITI, and other states investment authority continue to see Singapore as one of the important source of good investment into Malaysia. So I foresee this will continue for the short and near term. Singapore will continue to be one of our important source of investment.
Ambassador, what do you think is the scope for Singapore companies or Malaysian companies to work together in the sectors like healthcare, education, tourism, and digital economy, sustainability?
As I mentioned earlier, when Prime Minister Anwar was here in January, both sides signed this digital and green economy MOUs. So the relevant agencies, particularly MITI on our side and MTI on Singapore side, they have established a working group to look into further detail on specific project that can be undertaken under these two sectors, green and digital. But as private sector is also one of the main drivers when it comes to investing and trading. So I think at their own level, private sector level, they have also come up with many activities that can be pursued by both sides. There are a lot of potential for both sides to explore. Singapore, in addition to digital and green, Singapore also talk about, one of the lessons of pandemic is that we need to secure supply chains, and especially when it comes to food. So I think one of the areas that both sides are also exploring is on food security. So Malaysia have a lot of lands. We have, comparatively cheaper labor than Singapore. So I think Singapore can come up with a good investment on any agri-food, for example, agri-food projects in Malaysia, and so on and so forth, which I think will benefit both sides, since food that produced through Singapore money can also benefit both sides. But of course, it can come to Singapore as export from Malaysia, but at the same time, people in Malaysia can also use the food that produced by this joint project. So I foresee, as I said, a lot of scope for new growth area between Malaysia and Singapore.
High Commissioner, in Singapore, it's not only Singaporeans who stay here. There are many people from all over the world who come stay here, diplomats, their own people from different countries. Where would you like them to go in Malaysia?
Singapore is a city-state, right? There's so much to do here, but there's so much more to do in Malaysia. So I think over the years we have seen a lot of these expats, or people that work here, go and spend time as well in Malaysia. So Malaysia have a lot of attraction. The lists are endless. So depends on what you want to do. We offer everything. We offer beaches. We offer rainforest. We offer mountains. We offer everything. We offer also good places for them to do shopping. Comparatively cheaper in Malaysia than Singapore. Especially now when the exchange rate is too favorable for those who have Singapore dollar. So I think the interest to go and spend in Malaysia are becoming more and more as we go by. But I think more than that, Malaysia also offer good value for money. In terms of product, in terms of tourism activities, or even in terms of spending time in Malaysia. So I think that's why we see expat based in Singapore continue to use or come to Malaysia to spend their holiday and so on. So I think this trend will continue for the future, and we welcome this, as I said, because we also want to rejuvenate our tourism sector, after 2 years of pandemic, where we do not have any income from the tourism sector. Just for your information, 2019, for example, we received about 26 million tourists, and that generate about 86 billion ringgit of spillover from that activities. But in 2022, for example, we only since we opened the border in April, we received 10 million for that 2022. So we still have a lot to catch up, to bring that number to pre-pandemic of 26 million. So government is investing a lot of money to do various promotional activities to encourage tourists to come back to Malaysia. But I think generally, as you can see all over the world, tourists I think are taking a bit more cautious approach when it comes to travelling. But I think we also identified that after COVID, after 2 years of COVID, tourists also become more savvy in the sense that they do their homework before they travel and so on and so forth. So that's why I think for Malaysia we are investing in tourism infrastructure to upgrade some of this infrastructure that we have, but also to come up with a more interesting package and so on and so forth for tourism activity. And in the past, as you're probably aware, we organize what we call Visit Malaysia Year from time to time. So I foresee government will also do this Visit Malaysia Year in near future, maybe in 1 or 2 years time, so to attract more interest for people to come to Malaysia.
This year, Malaysian companies participated in NATA's. There was also Tourism Malaysia Fair, which was held in May, and there's another one upcoming in October. Then you also had that the Bazaar
Malaysia Fest.
Yeah. So how has the response been so far?
I mean, so response for promotional activity that we conducted in Singapore has been very good. I mean, logically speaking, even before COVID, Singapore has, in 2019, for example, Singapore contributed the most number of tourists arrival to Malaysia. So I think Singapore arrival from Singapore is about more or less 8 to 9 million, or maybe 10 million per year. So I think this trend will continue. As I said, Singaporean and expat living in Singapore always see Malaysia as their natural venture into to see things more than just what they see in Singapore. So I think this will continue. We will continue to also focus on Singapore market. But as I said, since the opening of the border, I mean, interest for Malaysia from Singaporean and those people that are residing in Singapore has been very, very good. So we are seeing a lot of interest of people coming to Malaysia. So
August and September are very auspicious months. Singapore celebrated its National Day. Many ASEAN countries, including yours. What is your message to Malaysians here, Singaporean friends, on their National Day and your National Day?
I think National Day is the day that we reflect, on our contribution to our country. I mean, likewise in Singapore, as you mentioned, they have all this National Day parade, National Day message by the leaders and so on and so forth. Likewise, we are doing the same in Malaysia. So this year we're going to celebrate, Malaysia Day, National Day for Malaysia in Singapore, most probably in September. But my message to Malaysian in Singapore is that wherever that we go, Malaysia should always be in our heart. We should try to contribute back to our country. So I think this is something that we always encourage. They may not be able to come back and work in Malaysia, but they can always contribute back to their motherland in various ways. So one thing that we have launched this year is that through Talent Corp we launched what we call My Heart database, where all Malaysian living abroad, so-called diaspora, they can register in the database and then listing out their expertise and so on and so forth. As I say, this is one way on how we want to capture their expertise and so on, so that if they want to, then they contribute back to the country. So I think the database is timely, so that all diaspora can, all Malaysian abroad can find it easier for them to contribute back to Malaysia.
Wishing you a very nice, auspicious National Day, good celebrations, and may our ties become stronger and stronger, and people-to-people ties thrive. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
High Commissioner.
And you are invited to our National Day.
Thank you.